Hello folks, I'm L.A. Little and this is your daily TA wrap, where we take a look at these markets and we do it differently, taking a view from the neoclassical perspective, asking ourselves each day, what happened today and what might it tell us about the coming sessions. I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the Rocky Mountains. We had snow again last night, of all things. What is this, April 7th? Snow in the Rockies. What a beautiful, beautiful sight it is. Of course, it disappears fast, but it comes and goes. Will this bear that's all of a sudden made its move disappear fast, or will it stick around? We had some decent selling again today. This time, Dow, all of them down, right? Russell down 1.5 is the largest decline here. But the Dow was down 166, 16,245. The S&Ps, they lost 20. S&Ps have, they've lost, what, 3% in 2 days now. You know, big move down Friday, big move, you know, off the top, right? They made a new high on that employment number right off the top, and then they've given up 3% straight away. Composite down at 1.16%, 47, almost 48 lower, 4,079. NDX 31 lower, 3507. The Russell, as we said, 1.53% lower, 17.6, 1135.77. We had most of the commodities down today, not big, just down a bit. Gold was down as well, about $5. It's up just barely after hours. Bonds were up today. They look like they're down a little bit after hours. The dollar was weaker today, 0.25%, and that's pretty much the story. All right, so the markets. Let's see what's happening with the markets here, because that's really the question, right? And so I'm going to the daily chart on the S&P 500. And there's a lot to talk about actually tonight, and they're all going to be kind of confluent here. And it may or may not be surprising, I don't know, because some of you are getting pretty good at this as well. We got multiple swing point lows we're coming after, right? So the S&P here, swing point, swing point, swing point. That can always be an issue if you break them. So the question is are you going to break them? So as we come into them, this low is 1842, is doing about 37.3 on it. And then you got one at 1839 and another one at 1834. So you can see they're all within about 10, 12 points of each other. Doing 38 into 37.3. You got the volume, you test the low, you bounce back above it though, you hold it. That says it's probably going to test it again, even though it's not very much more. It's pretty tight. So this one in and of itself is not conclusive. But the thing that we did do today, which is conclusive, and that is that we were talking about a retest regen off of this bar, right? We opened up right at that level and never was able to give it any kind of a real push back the other way, and then we just barreled down after that, right? So that retest regen, this area, that's a big failure, right? Get an F for that. That's not good. That says, at best, you're in a range trade. Where's the range? Well, the range is the one that was there before. So we're still in it. We could extend it to the top now. But we're in a range trade. Where are we? We're at the bottom of that range. Are we going to break it down? Well, if we do, and we break down these multiple swing points, we're going down to this next support zone. And that is where everybody else has already gone, the Feb 3 bar. So when we look at all of that, right, the danger is that these break. The odds are that we're going to come back here and try it again, but we may get a bounce in between, and so then we have to try to size up the possibility of that bounce. So let's go to some of the other sectors and indexes and see what they're doing. Let's go to the NASDAQ, because the NASDAQ's been the weakest. The NDX, NASDAQ have been leading us on the way down. They get into the Feb 3 bar. Remember Friday they were playing with it? Volume as well. Well, they still have volume. They're in the bar. That says you can go lower. But if you take and look at this guy, you got an ABCD structure off this top, right? This ABCD structure just finished. Matter of fact, it more than finished. And you get a bounce off the bottom, a little small one, but a little bounce off the bottom today. NASDAQ says, hey, we can flip around and go back the other way. NDX says the same thing. If we go over and look at the Russell, these are the small caps, right? Small caps doing an ABCD down as well. Now this one had pulled a lot farther up. That ABCD down just finished as well. And what did it also do? It came into that big Feb 3 bar that they're all trying to get to, and it didn't have enough volume, right? Volume lighter, you come into it, you test into it, you bounce off of it. That says these things want to flip around and get a bounce. Now what we also saw, going back to the S&P 500 from a different perspective, if I go in intraday and look at the S&P 500, because this is the one that's saying, hey, we can come back down and test again. We had some big buy programs coming into this thing, right? Each one of these bars were up bars, if you look at them, right? This was a reversal bar. These are buys. All those big bars during the day buying it, right, kept bleeding lower, but eventually it did turn, got a nice ABCD structure on the upside. You know, most of you probably don't intraday trade, but there was a nice ABCD structure on the upside. Matter of fact, I pointed out that people should close when we were about right here, close their shorts, or at least take some of their profits is the way I said it. And, you know, lo and behold, it wasn't very much longer after I said that they turned and ran the other way. So big structures inside, you could see this stuff happening. You could tell that it didn't want to go down much more. The other piece of this was the divergence where the NASDAQ was actually trying to lead us back up. Well, why is that? Well, because the NASDAQ has been beaten up so bad that it's just exhausted. Now, that tells you something else. If you have exhaustion versus real buyers, right? In other words, people are just plain tired of selling what they got, and you start bouncing as a result of that. Yeah, that can lead to a bounce, but that's not the kind of bounce you want to see. So when I look at this particular picture, yeah, we can bounce. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to probably come back up now, just like you do on the top side. What you want to do now is you want to measure up wherever your swing point lows are that you broke. And in this particular case, we haven't broken, right? I mean, we've already done retest regens off of these lows. This was the low here, and that was the other one up there. We'd already retested and regenerated lower. So until we set up another one, we won't be testing there. I believe we actually have one on the NDX though. Let's check it. Not also within 6 bars. So we don't have structures here for retest regens. That just means you can come back up into resistance and test there. The real test won't be over here. It's going to be back over in the S&P 500. And does it break out this lows right away or not? And so I suspect it's not going to, but I do believe it's going to come back after them again. Where can we bounce to? Well, we could bounce all the way up to here, right, up into this area here, but I doubt we're going to get that far. I think you're going to see resistance print here tomorrow. That's going to be anchor bars, those 2 bars, wide price spread, and they're not going to be quite heavy volume. They're going to have decent wide price spread. And I'm checking right quick. I don't know if it'll print there or not. It's going to be a close call, actually. It does look to me like it will print. It's going to probably print off of this one. So you're going to have a little minor zone of resistance right there. That's about as far as I think it's going to get, which is the top of today's bar, the bottom of Friday's bar. If you get up there, that's probably going to be a decent bounce. And that's 1%. Let's look at the sectors together here. So that's the indexes. That's what they look like. Let's pop over and see if the sectors are saying anything different. And I did get a chance to glance at a couple, 3 or 4 of these before I got on the air. And I don't think they are. So let's run through them real quick and see. So IYT, still a range. Volume's pushing down. Tested this low, this big volume bar. That one's probably going to bounce. Semiconductors, these guys have been trying to come down. And a little doji today, nothing special. This one's going to try to bounce as well, probably. You can see the volume coming off of this, though. This could easily keep coming down. It doesn't mean it has to bounce. but the little doji with the rest of the stuff, yeah, this one can bounce. Let me see what the SOX looks like, because it's a little broader. That low was 77.69. Yeah, so you tested under it, you bounced back over it, you had more volume. So the semis are going to trade lower. It's just a question if they're going to bounce here. It does look like they'll try to bounce. So that's two of them look like they want to bounce. XLB. All right, so the big bar here is 46.45. You tested into it. Well, you missed it by 3 cents. You don't have the volume. That also wants to bounce. XLE. Now the XLE had been the strongest one, but they came off hard as well. And they're coming into a big bar here at 88.48 high. They got as low as 88.65. They don't have the volume. Well, we could get a little bit more of a push down, but this one also looks like it's going to be bought. Financials. Financials start reporting. Earnings are this week. Alcoa tomorrow. Bed Bath & Beyond. I know Wells Fargo and JP Morgan on Friday. There's a couple other. There's another one on Thursday. I forget which one it is. Dollar Stores, I think, is the other one. Those are the big five this week. And they started selling off these financials in front of that. So you broke a swing point low. You got another one right here below it. So that low doesn't have that much volume. I mean, excuse me, actually has more volume than what we broke with. It looks like that was 589 versus 658. And you broke this big bar here. Well, these look like they're going to try to trade lower initially. Although you did, this is kind of crazy. Look at this. You just finished off an ABCD structure as well, right? Because it went so high, there's almost no structure to it. Right? A lot of people won't count that ABCD. I think it's still a valid ABCD, right? There's an A point, a B point, a C point, you break it. It just doesn't go far. And that's okay. You know, projections don't have to be huge to have a valid ABCD structure. So that one looks like it finished it off. So maybe a little more probing tomorrow and then of some sort of a bounce. XLF we did, so a little bit lower there. XLI, so industrials have been strong. Still range trading, and it's still just a range trade, nothing else there. XLK, these guys finally getting croaked as a group. Swing point lows, 3 of them, right? 4 of them actually. And you want to know if there's danger brewing? Well, here's a good answer. Now, it didn't have the volume, so you're probably going to get a bounce because you just had a huge move, right? Percentage-wise, you just had a fairly large move, about 5%. So I suspect this thing will bounce, even though it broke these lows, but I suspect it's also going to come right back after them. And now here you actually do have things to measure against. And given that technology has been the weak one, you got a bunch of retest, regenerate zones now to watch, right? And they all point to this little area here, congruent. That will be the spot. What is that price point? Top of this guy, 36.05. Yeah, so anywhere from about 35.85 to 36.05 is going to be hard to get back over. Yeah, about 36.05. So technology finally getting croaked as a group. I mean, it was still pushing up here even when the whole, you know, you're seeing a bunch of the high flyers getting killed, yet it was still holding. XLP, these are safety guys. Still range trading. Nothing really there. XLU was also safety trade, and that one can't go higher. That one's going to come back. That's 2 failures in a row. All right, XLV, our technology. Let's look at IBB as well while we're here. So this one tests the low, doesn't have the volume. It's going to try to flip around. Let's see what IBB looks like. And that one did flip around on less volume. That's a reversal. That one's going to finally bounce. XLY. and that one breaks the swing point low, has the volume, came into the big bar, Feb 3 bar, first one of the sectors I think to do that. That one also is going to bounce. So they all line up the same way. You're going to see this market bounce tomorrow. Where's it going to go after that? I don't think it's going to go that much farther to the upside, but those are like famous last words with this market, given that every dip has been bought. So I guess I should hedge that like everybody else wants to do, but I'm not going to. This market's going lower, in my opinion. And I'm going to go back to the GSBC. When it breaks these swing point lows, which it is going to do this time around, in other words, when we get a bounce and we come back, that next trip back, I'm almost certain it's going to break these guys. And when it does, we're going to trade lower. So if you're thinking about loading up on stuff, that's probably not what I would be doing here. Can you pick at stuff? Yeah. Can you buy some of these high flyers that have been crushed 40%? Sure. You can get a bounce. Matter of fact, we should. But think of them as trades would be my advice. That's certainly the way I'm looking at them. Let's go over the aux markets real quick. If you got questions, type them in. I'm going to have a little bit of time, and I have one that was texted to me. I'll take that one. Dollar flips back down, so it leaves two bars up there by themselves. But the dollar's going to flip back around and go test them again. So the dollar still looks like it wants to go higher. If that's true, gold should struggle. We may see gold coming back in deeper here. So that big bar it got over, 124.79, it's going to test it tomorrow. If it gets into the bar, it's coming right back to the lows, 123.50 again. And you still got this high it's trying to target. The bad thing for gold, if this actually does start lower, is you've got an ABCD structure that finished, right? Now you're setting up the next one. You just had a little ABCD structure to the top that got finished, but now you're setting up a larger ABCD structure to try to take it even deeper this time, and that would take it pretty deep if it does it. So gold is at what I would think is a fairly critical area, this area. Gold needs to trade sideways here, even if there is dollar strength. Let me look at silver. If the gold is going to try to trade higher. And gold is trying to make a big turn. When you look at the longer term charts, gold is trying to make a larger turn on a longer term time frame. So if I pull up the weekly, for example, it's trying to do this rounded bottom kind of thing and trying to set up to go higher, but you can't do that unless you hold. So it's going to be this week, next week is going to be a big test for it on a longer term time frame. Bonds headed back up today on the fear, and on the weekly, nothing special there. Let's go back to the daily. Alright, so that high is 109.34. You got to 109.29. 109.18, doesn't have the volume. Bonds are going to continue to range trade, and that says market can bounce. It looks to me like this is going to hold. So market looks like it can bounce from their perspective as well. All right. If you got something you want me to look at special, let me know, and I'll take a look at it. Let me look over to EEM. What did it do today? It held all right. China has been closed. I think they opened back up tonight. You got Bank of Japan doing whatever they're going to do tonight. That could be another round of stimulus, I guess. They've already kicked in stimulus with the respect of buying their own stocks. Another big fund there, a government fund. What am I looking for here? I wanted to look at, I saw that the Brazil index bounced even farther. Yeah, it did. So it went over and stayed over it. 47.32. It did. Man, what a move. That's 8 points on 39. That's more than 20% straight up. And you don't even have an ABCD structure inside this thing. I mean, he still hasn't put in a B point. I guess that's what you can do when you're coming off of a serious decline. which is what they were, right? So nice move. I don't know how much longer it's going to continue, but the money keeps flowing into this thing for now. I'm sure a lot of that's short covering, but how much of it, who knows. Let's go look at, well, actually, Tommy asked me a question, IYR. Let's look at it. IYR was a good-looking stock, or actually sector trying to break out. Yeah, it's poking on it. This actually looks good. It looks good from the weekly as well. You know, I've had my eye on this for a while. It's really up here trying to break out. So I like this. I like this sector. The only thing I don't like is the market, right? When the general market's struggling, everything's going to struggle. If you're going to put your money in something, yeah, picking on something like this is not a bad spot, right? Because in a weak market, it's holding. And that's really what you want. You want stocks that are going to hold or even try to push higher, which is what this sector is doing. So yeah, this is a good place to look at the long side, especially from a sector point of view. Had a text message for KSU. KSU is railroad, Kansas City Southern. I didn't get a chance to look this up to see what this big drop was, but you know, independent of whatever it was, when I see huge volume and wide price spread like this, the first thing I think of, and the first thing you should think of, is that's a range trade, right? And until they take out one side or the other, you're going to trade inside this thing for quite a while. And usually that goes on for a decent amount of time. The wider that range, the wider that bar, the longer it goes, right? And you can kind of see that back here. Here was a big wide price spread. I picked the wrong one. It was here, right? And it actually got underneath it for once, right? But if you actually take this back, let me draw it again. Other than 2 times, right? That traded for what, 5-6 months? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 months basically inside that range. Tested the bottom, got out of it once, tested it several times, tested the high once, finally got over it, and now big price, right? And this one's even wider, so this one is going to stick for a while, I would think. So the question is can you get back over this high, in terms of a trade, if that's what you're looking at? That's the weekly. Let's go back to the daily real quick. My advice would be not to pick on something like this. Now, a stock like this in a stronger market will find some way to close this whole gap eventually, right? And it's 2 months now it's been sideways trading, range trading in this bar, right? Without taking the whole, the whole bar, because you got a big gap down. Can it get back up there, break out, come back up? Yeah, it can, but unless this general market trades higher, it's probably not going to do that. When you have a bull market or a market that's strong in general, these kinds of stocks can recover and come all the way back up, close their gaps. When you're like this, no, I wouldn't expect that. What I would do, if you're interested in just that stock, well, I would say no. If you're interested in the sector, I'd pop over to the sector trends, stick that stock in here, and find out what else is moving. So if I go, to the railroad stocks, so here's the railroad stocks. First thing I do is I just look at it short term and say, is anybody bullish? Greenbrier is, that's a potential one. That one's bullish across all time frames. I'm just glancing across here, some of the bigger names. Here's one, KSU, that's the one you're on, right? But it's bearish here, so no. Where else we got bullish? Bullish here. Norfolk Southern. That one probably is not bad. Let's look at that one. NSC. That one's got good intermediate and short term. Yeah, so this is more what I'd be looking for. All right, this one's broke the swing point highs, and while the market has stumbled and traded sideways, down, this thing's just trading up here. So that's the kind of stock I'd go look for if I'm interested in that sector. I'd use sector trends to go find them. Okay? All right, no more questions. I got a couple minutes. I'm going to pop over and see what the international markets look like. I know they came down, but I didn't see how, so let's take a quick peek at those and see. We expected them to trade lower, or at least I did. I said this much, I think, in the broadcast last night. I want to go to, actually, let's take Toronto in Australia first for my members. It's just a big range trade in Toronto. I don't see anything special there. No real volume on the way down yet. And the All Ordinaries, that's at resistance. That one's going to have a tough time pushing any higher. Let me look at Hong Kong. China was close, so I won't have anything there. Hong Kong, a little fade back in, nothing special there. That actually doesn't look bad. That one looks like it can bounce. And let me go to Europe. So start with the CACs, which has been the strongest one. The CACs comes back in doing a retest regen. So the retest regen here will be off this swing point high, and because it's a big wide one, you could get a long way down. It's coming back within 6 bars. That usually says you'll try to test the other side. So I would think somewhere in here is where it's going to try to get to. And, well, actually it may not. I mean, look at the volumes here. You're coming into 1.5 and you're only doing 1.2. This one may bounce without going very deep. Let's look at the other two real quick. The German DAX. And let's see here. Remember, these had extended past ABCD structures. This one's going to try to come all the way back to the March 21st bar. I would think somewhere around 93.60. And the weakest one has been London. Let's see what that one looks like. And that one's going to come back in too. So that London looks to trade down another 50 points or so. So it looks to me like what you're going to see is you're going to see Asia struggle. You're going to see Europe weak. You're going to see us flat, so potentially a little bit lower in the morning, maybe even slightly higher. And you're going to see us try to rally tomorrow probably. I don't think it's going to carry that far though, so I wouldn't get, I wouldn't fall in love with any of these stocks if you're thinking about it. All right, folks, thanks a lot for joining me. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm always here for you. It's LAN, the TA wrap. Have a great night. Take care. I'll see you next time. Good night, folks.